Have you ever wondered how a simple act of an animal and you can make all the difference in a time of crisis? Imagine a city that was devastated by heavy rains. The houses are destroyed, and the streets covered in mud and a trail of destruction that seems to have no end. In such case, the hope comes from an unexpected way, almost miraculous. Have you ever gone through something like that, to feel that all is lost, and all of a sudden an act of courage or an attitude is unlikely to change the course of events? Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out right now might surprise you. A story of resilience, hope, and the power that comes from a hero no one expected it. In this time of tragedy, despair filled everyone's heart. Firefighters and local residents joined together in a race against time, searching for survivors under the rubble. The sound of the sirens, the cries of hope, and also of despair echoing through the streets destroyed, creating an atmosphere of tension and anxiety. Many of them had been rescued, but the question remained, just how many lives were yet to be buried with no chance of it to be found? In this scenario, the pain, the fear, the loss is irreparable, hung in the air. And it was in that moment of despair something unexpected began to happen. For a dog rescue, who has been trained for such occasions, came on the scene. With a watchful eye and an attitude that is concentrated, it fared Java every inch of the ground torn, searching for signs of life. His presence seemed to be small, given the size of the disaster, but it's her determination. It was huge. Every step you take, every farejo appeared to be a hope of quiet, of that there was still a chance to save someone else. And it is precisely there, in the midst of the chaos, the story is unlikely that the story has started to show its worth. You can't imagine what happened to that? It gets to me, because it's the journey of a dog rescue has yet to be proved, and what is to come will hold even more in this story of courage and faith. As to the dog's rescue, he began to dig into with a determination that is almost a knee-jerk. It seemed as if time stood still for a moment. His movements were quick, full of hope and strength, even in the face of destruction that seemed to be without hope. The fire looked at them in silence, surprised by the persistence of that little furry hero who had not heard the orders and insisted that at that particular point. And then, in an instant, almost magical on the ground, he began to be a surprise. A small hand shy but of the living was emerging slowly from under the dirt and debris. At this time, all of the anxiety gave way to the tears of relief as they all joined in on the hug collection of new hope. This story shows us how important it is to believe in the power of the Holy Spirit of solidarity and the special connection we share with our four-legged friends. If you are thrilled with this narrative, one that you leave here in the comments that most touched your heart, or share some of your own experience of hope and resilience. Your feedback is critical to build the community that emphasizes a story of courage and faith. Like the video to help spread this message, inspiring more people to believe in the power of love, loyalty, and dedication. And if you want to continue with this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel. Your participation is what makes this space to grow, reaching and ever more people with the stories that remind us that the best you can be. After all, it's times like this show us that together, we can make any scene of the tragedy is a true sign of hope and resilience. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line because that is the story of that dog. To the rescue, we show that in many cases, the real strength comes from an instinct of the connection that you have with the service of something larger and the courage to act, even when everything around you seems to fall apart. It is during this time that the most important decisions are made not by humans, but also for our four-legged friends. They seem to have a sensitivity that goes beyond what we can understand why it's beautiful. It's as if, even in times of crisis, they will be able to get access to a truth that is hidden, a kind of ancient wisdom that guides you in the right direction. And if you look at the behavior that the dog, we see the transformation of a desperate situation starts right in your decision to trust this instinct, to go in a sense that, more often than not, it makes logical sense, but it brings amazing results. Have you ever noticed how, in life, a lot of times, our biggest change happens when you decide to listen to that inner voice? When we doubt, and we begin to act in accordance with what they feel, even without knowing exactly what it is. The story of the dog from the rescue, it reinforces this idea that sometimes courage is a decision. It is the one that separates them is a tragedy, a win-win. The impact of an act of faith and of the pulse, the echo, for the community as a whole, turning what appeared to be an award for loss of a miracle. And with this understanding, it is not only about redemption or about the animals and about our own journey of growth and the evolution of mind and decision-making that shape who we are. What makes this story even more powerful is the way in which it is revealed that for each action there is a story of dedication, hope, and endurance. It was as if the universe was telling us that even though the scenario may seem bleak, there is always a light that's hidden. For a chance to change that, he is often right in front of us, disguised as the guts of someone else or in the sense of an animal. In this perspective, we can see that it's the true transformation starts in the mind, the willingness to believe that there is always a way out, even if it is not visible to the eye. The journey of one dog teach us that the trust that we feel, we can impact lives in such a profound way, and it is unforgettable and transforming despair into hope, fear into strength. And it is this connection that he made with the children buried there seems to be the ultimate symbol of that. Deep down, we all have an innate ability to switch destinations, to get off the internet. That moment of silence, the waiting, in the persistence, it reveals a universal truth. Hope will never die as long as we are willing to seek and to insist on the belief in the possibility of something better. And when you think about all of this, is that, of course, many, many times, the greatest courage is to follow what your heart tells you, even when logic tells us to give up. This is a lesson that is in addition to the episode. It's a fact that we can apply to our own lives and our everyday decisions, the way we think about the challenges and opportunities that appear in your path. After all, it is the transformation of a true born such a deep connection to what we believe is possible. And this is the story of a dog who dug desperately to find a child who was caught is a living proof of that. When we listen to that inner voice, we can create miracles. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the story of the man's dog to the rescue, who was on the dig at this point, apparently, without hope, in the United States, something that is often hidden in the routine of day-to-day activities, the true strength of our imagination. The belief that there is a truth hidden behind every action, it is often only reveals itself at the proper time. It is one of the biggest lessons of this point in the song. When we talk about the resistance, making the difficult, or even during the transformation, and the power that comes from within, one that is fueled by faith, to be silent, it can be the difference between failure and success. And it is precisely this power that the dog seemed to be going on, even we do not understand completely at the time, is crucial. His every move, every attempt has been made to dig up. It seemed to be a manifestation of an inner wisdom that is beyond logic, beyond thinking rationally. In this connection, a truth hidden, it is one of the greatest wealth that you can learn from it. After all, a lot of times, the answers that you seek are hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, or skepticism, but it is still accessible to anyone who has the courage to trust in your own instincts, your own intuition. This is a journey of courage and faith. It also shows that our decision-making, so much shorter than they seem, have a huge impact on our lives and those around us. When we choose to act with courage, even in the face of the unknown, we've opened the doors to the possibilities that before would have seemed impossible. This is one of the great revelations that lurk behind the stories, like this one, that our actions are rooted in trust and hope. They can create an impact that will reverberate far beyond what we could ever imagine. It is at this point that we realize the power of open-mindedness, a willingness to follow your heart and believe in the power that exists within us, often sleeping out of fear or self-doubt. And at the same time, it is obvious that the strength is not something that is exclusive to the heroes and the animals are trained, but that is a capability that we have, just to learn how to get it. When we think about the persistence of that dog, that we see that the transformation is often born of this arrangement did not give up, even when everything seems to indicate that it's time to stop. The emphasis of the animal, which he ignored the command, and he devoted himself to dig into it with determination. A strong symbol of the impact of a decision. Persistent. You can turn the game around. When we trust our intuition, even if it will take us in ways different from those of conventional, we have a chance to make a difference. It is as if, at the core, we are accessing a deeper truth, one that connects us to a greater power, one that urges us to follow, even when the scenery looks like a dark place. And this force, in turn, will strengthen our ability to change, resilience, personal transformation. Every decision we make, every action of courage, it is a seed that we carry with us on a journey of growth, change, and discovery, one of the best that you can be. The story of a dog rescue, in this sense, it invites us to revisit our relationship with fear, doubt, and even in the case of failure. It turns out, a lot of times, the greater the impact, it is the courage to continue, even when the evidence seems to indicate that we are alone, or that hope was short-lived. In this connection, courage, instinct, and the processing is that it causes us to realize that the real power to change the fates lies in our willingness to trust in what we feel, in our inner power and strength, and the persistence to not give up in the face of adversity. Because at the end of the day, each and every one of us is made up of choices, one of the defining moments in which we can choose to follow the light of hope or on the run from the fear. And then, when you look at this inspiring story, it is clear that it is the force that moves a lot of times that's hidden in one's ability to believe in one's own truth that is hidden, in the hope that it touches you in the heart, which is ready to turn any scene of the tragedy, a story of overcoming it. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the force that pushed him, the dog, digging in so hard, even when it seemed that his search would be in vain. She reveals something that a lot of the times we forget in the rush of day-to-day. What you need to have confidence in our truth is hidden in a quiet voice that guides us, even without any rational explanations. This story shows us that behind every decision, from the guts, there is a connection to a spirit of the deepest. Most of us who have access to the knowledge and wisdom that goes beyond the fear, the doubt, and the views outside. It is this connection that gives us the strength to do it, even when everything around you seems to come crashing down. The journey of your dog, teaching us that too often, the impact of the stronger it will not come from the major strategies and plans are developed, but the simple act of following what you feel, believe, that there is something beyond what the eye can see. And in doing so, we opened up the space for the universe will surprise us with a revelation that changes lives, showing that our guts can turn even the most dismal of a story of hope. When you think about the transformation that takes place in the process, we realize that it is a result of a change in mindset. It's not just about digging in the mud or to find a child who was trapped in, but on the understanding that every decision we make, even the simplest of things, it has a profound impact. The mindset of people who believe in the power of the instincts, of all those who trust in their own truth that is hidden, it leads us to see beyond what is visible to you. It is as if the action were to be a seed sown in the soil, in the hope that germinate at the right time, even if the weather seem endless and the difficulties insurmountable. In this connection, the core of it is that it makes it possible for us to create an impact not only in our lives, but in the lives of those around us. And it is precisely this power that has made all the difference, because it makes us realize that even in the midst of the chaos, there is always a chance to act with the courage to make the right choice for you to rely on your own journey. You see the effort that the dog digging in a persistence in an almost knee-jerk. It reinforces the idea that true transformation comes from a decision not to give up. When you follow what you feel, even if it seems unreasonable or without any hope, we are in fact on force. Mesure is a true hidden inside of us that connects us to take you behind the scenes of our very existence. It is the one that leads to stress, to seek answers, and to break down the barriers. In this process, we find that the impact of a decision not to be measured only by its immediate result, but in the courage to move forward, even in the face of greater uncertainty. Courage is that which builds for the path of transformation, and that makes us to understand that the biggest key to a successful life is in the mindset of people who believe in your own strength and on the power of your actions. And in that context, the story of the dog shows, which very often the biggest revelation is happening at the moment, we decided to rely on the truth that is hidden, in the strength that comes from within, and that is, pushes us to continue on, even when everything seems to be against us. In this connection, courage, instinct, and the impact, it is revealed that the real transformation is not a one-off event, but a continuous journey of self-discovery and decision-making. Each and every step that we take in the direction of what we believe in, even if it is against the grain, enhance our way of thinking, and that can make all the difference. And then, when we look at one episode for the rescue, we realize that the thing that really makes the difference is that the provision to go beyond the surface, to listen to that inner voice, which is often silenced by fear or skepticism. It is this trust that we have found that we are able to create miracles, to turn the scenarios in apparently irreversible impact on the lives of so that no one can fully explain it, but it can all feel it. And it is this feeling that we can do. Other than that, there's always a truth is hidden, waiting to be revealed to us. This is the one that gives us hope that even in the times are difficult, we can find the strength to move forward, digging in the depths of our own soul, and the light of hope will shine more strongly than ever before. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because of the persistence of that dog that digs on without stopping. Even when it seemed there was no hope, he reveals a truth that often lies dormant in one's own journey of transformation. This is a force of will, and that the instinct to keep going, it defies the logic that is common to give up in the face of the block, and showed us that often the biggest impact that happens precisely at that point that we decided not to give in to despair. It is interesting to see how this attitude on the part of the follow your heart, even when everything around you seems to fall apart, it is also directly related to our ability to make choices that will shape the destiny. And when you think about it, we realize that the mindset of those who do not give up is one of the major forces in the unseen that we may grow. This is not just about physical strength or strength in a given moment, but also a determination of the built-in to connect to our inner selves more fully, the one who believes in the possibility of a miracle, even when all evidence points to the contrary. This is the connection to our inner power and strength that is the one that transforms with a simple action to dig in the mud, in the hope of finding a life, an act of courage. It reverberates through the rest of our lives. Each of the decision to persevere, trusting in your own intuition, it's like a seed sown in the earth, the soul. Some of the first planted immediately, others take more time to sprout, but they all carry the potential to make a profound transformation. On this journey, we have learned that the major revelations, it doesn't happen only in the moments of victory, but also in moments of doubt, fatigue, and uncertainty. It is in these moments that our way of thinking that is tried and tested. If you can keep the faith that there is something greater than the obstacles, we may open a path, which until then seemed impossible. The story of the man, the dog in the show, which very often the desire to go forward comes at exactly the time that hope seems to run low, and this is where our power is of the most genuine form. It was as if the universe had been waiting for this moment for a decision. At the same time that you decide to trust only in our own truth, the hidden, the one that often gets hidden behind the fear or skepticism. When you think about it, we realize that this emphasis on the search for something, the greater it is one of the major manifestations of courage. That is, can we develop? It is not a heart in the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. It's the force that drives us to keep going, even when everything around us seems to come crashing down, because we all know that at the bottom, there is a hope that the pulse is strong in all of us. That hope can be hidden under a layer of questions, but it's there, and she was able to take us to the places where they never could have imagined to get. It is this invisible force that fuels a journey of self-discovery and growth, and to show us that no matter how hard it is to be in the scene, there is always a chance to change the course of history. And that change begins with the decision to rely on your own. The truth is hidden. The courage to follow your instinct and to insist that, even if the signs seem to indicate that all is not lost. Because in the end, the more processing it is just at those moments in which we have decided not to give up, even when everything around you seems to fall apart, because there, at that moment, there was the opportunity to build a real, long-lasting, and that can be life-changing, including our own. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's what they came up with, the dog, at the time of the insistence that it teaches us a valuable lesson about how our decision-making, more important, many times it does not come to a logical analysis, but also a built-in connection to something deeper than that. The strength of the will of the animal, which he ignored orders, and he dug in with a determination that is almost a knee-jerk. It's proof that there's a part of us that knows the truth that is hidden. You know where to go and what to do when the scene is chaos and hopelessness. This truth is hidden. It's like an internal compass, a silent voice that has guided us in the direction of our main findings. And, during the course of this growth and to understand that you can trust, it's a crucial step to transform obstacles into opportunities for real impact. This is the force that drives the persistence of which causes the heart to miss a beat, even in the face of difficulties, and it is a connection to the core of who we closer to the truth, a sort of ancestral wisdom that we carry inside of us, and that too often we forget to listen to it. When you realize that, at that time, the dog has her own intuition and your own inner strength, we are left with a reflection on the powerful, often, for the transformation we seek in our lives. It also depends on the decision of the trust that we feel, even if that feeling goes against the logic of the external reviews. This is a decision to follow your heart. It's more than an act of courage, that is, a revelation that we have a truth that is hidden, is a source of strength that only comes when we allow ourselves to listen to it. When we choose to believe that there is something beyond the surface, beyond the fear and doubt, and we begin to open the door to possibilities that before would have seemed impossible. And that gap is the one that maximizes the journey of self-discovery, evolution, and impact. It's as if when you trust in our own intuition, we are accessing more energy that connects us to our full potential in the deeper ones, the ones who are able to transform any set of the face of adversity. To understand this connection, it is essential to understand that, in fact, the real power is not in the number of battles won or the resistance of a given moment, but in order to move forward, to insist upon believing in the true occult. The truth is like a seed which, when planted in faith and begin to grow in the small hours of the more difficult, by helping you to create the roots of resilience and hope. And when you listen to that inner voice, you will find the courage to make the choices that they often seem to be against the grain, but which carried within itself the potential to change the fates. The insistence that the dog that dug in, non-stop, we demonstrate that the power of decision-making is in its persistence, the ability to continue even in the face of weariness, of disbelief, or dismay. It is in this movement to move forward that we find new possibilities in terms of impact, turn the pain into hope, and to transform fear into power. Because deep down, that the journey of transformation begins with the courage to trust in your own truth that is hidden, on the understanding that, for the dark, that's the scenario may seem, there is always a small light that can be switched on by our own hands, through our decisions and sincere in our faith. Even in the face of adversity, it is possible to make a difference. This deep connection between the decision and the impact, we show that, for the most part, what we are really moved by an unseen force, a power that comes when we choose to listen to what is most true in all of us. It is this harmony that we find the capacity to turn obstacles into opportunities, and to make choices that will reverberate through all of our history, and to create a narrative of improvement that can inspire anyone who is on our side. When you trust in the truth that is hidden, we give you a key step in the transformation of it, because we see beyond the surface, and you realize that the power lies in our willingness to persevere, to insist on it, and you believe that there is always a way out, a light, a hope, waiting to be discovered. And when you think about all of this, it is clear that the strength to keep going, even when things seem to fall apart, it's the one that makes all the difference in your way of life. It is this which drives us to continue to look for new opportunities to reinvent our past, even when the scenery looks like a dark place. And in it, we see that the greatest revolution that is going on inside of us, the decision to rely on our inner strength and our truth, is hidden, because it is there that lies the real power to transform any set of pain into a story of hope. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the force of that pressure, that the instinct to keep going, even when things seem to imply to the contrary. It reveals a truth that is too often forgotten in the routine of acceleration of our lives. That is the real start there, within us, in our way of thinking. It's not just about digging in the mud, or by waiting for the universe to send you a miraculous sign, but made a conscious decision to rely on our own inner strength in the truth that is hidden. That is, many times it is hidden beneath layers of fear, self-doubt, or skepticism. This is the force that pushed him, the dog, to dig them out with a lot of persistence. It is a powerful symbol of how our decision-making, to follow the heart, even in scenes of chaos, it can have a major impact in depth. Because you are, in essence, the whole transformation is in our willingness to believe that we can go above and beyond what the eye can see. There is a light that can be lit up from within each one of us. You just have to decide to look for it with a good courage. As we reflect on this journey, we realize that the mind is the greatest tool to have. It is like a key that opens the door to possibilities that, at times, seem impossible to achieve. When we choose to trust in the truth that is hidden, is in fact on the part of us that knows a route closer to the truth. You know exactly where it is and how to act in the face of all this chaos. In this connection, the core is what gives us the strength to persist, so do not give up, even when everything around us seems to come crashing down. It is an act of courage that transforms the question of determination, fear, power, and the exhaustion of fuel to keep moving forward. The story of one dog, it illustrates that many of the times, and the impact of a decision, it is precisely the courage to follow what you feel, even if that feeling will take us in ways that seem bad at first glance. And it is precisely at this point that our transformation is to take place in a more real, more solid. Notice that the connection between the decision and the impact, it is essential because it shows that you actually change your reality is not merely the momentary effort, but it's the mentality that we have cultivated over the long term. When we choose to look beyond the surface, you start to realize that our actions will have a force multiplier. Each of the following, hereinafter, the trust in his own intuition, it's like a seed planted in the fertile soil of our souls, which over time will pay off in the courage, hope, and the impact of it. It is as if each and every decision is an opportunity to rewrite our story of making a backdrop of adversity, a story of overcoming it. This provision only in cases where we have learned to listen to that quiet voice inside of us that gives us the courage to persist, to fight, to believe that we have been able to create a miracle. The impact of the following that inner voice is something that is beyond words, because it changes our lives, shapes our way of thinking, and strengthens us in our journey of growth. When you realize that, behind all that power, it's a conscious decision to trust in your own truth that is hidden. It is clear that the greatest revolution that is going on inside of each one of them. It is in this space that we find the courage to follow in addition to the fear, and to act in spite of uncertainty in the environment. In turn, obstacles into the steps. And it is precisely this idea of the persistence of this provision is to believe that there is a light waiting for us, which drives us to continue on, even when all seems lost. Because deep down, you know it's the true transformation is not the result of outside forces, but it is a change in the internal form of the faith and to hope that we grow every day. And in such a posture, that the decision to rely on your own inner strength, that is the one that prepares us to deal with any scenario, no matter how difficult it may be. Because when we choose to follow the truth that is hidden, we are opening the door to a journey of an impact that goes far beyond what we can imagine. And in doing so, we are getting ready for the new findings, new lessons, and new possibilities for change. They are always within reach. You just decide to look into and to trust in the power that lies there, waiting to be awakened. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the force that pushed him, the dog, to dig up non-stop. Even when it seemed there was no hope, he reveals a truth that is too often forgotten in the routine of acceleration of our lives. That is the real start there, within us, in our way of thinking. It's not just about digging in the mud or by waiting for the universe to send you a miraculous sign, but made a conscious decision to rely on our own inner strength in the truth that is hidden. That is, many times it is hidden beneath layers of fear, self-doubt, or skepticism. This is the force that pushed him, the dog, to experience a very intense way. It's a powerful symbol of how our decision-making, to follow the heart, even in scenes of chaos, it can have a major impact in depth. Because you are, in essence, the whole transformation is in our willingness to believe that we can go above and beyond what the eye can see. There is a light that can be lit up from within each one of us. You just have to decide to look for it with a good courage. As we reflect on this journey, we realize that the mind is the greatest tool to have. It is like a key that opens the door to possibilities previously thought to be impossible. When we choose to trust in the truth that is hidden, is, in fact, on the part of us that knows a route closer to the truth, you know exactly where it is and how to act in the face of all this chaos. In this connection, the core is what gives us the strength to persist, so do not give up, even when everything around us seems to come crashing down. It is an act of courage that transforms the question of determination, fear, power, and the exhaustion of fuel to keep moving forward. The story of one dog, it illustrates that many of the times, and the impact of a decision, it is precisely the courage to follow what you feel, even if that feeling will take us in ways that seem bad at first glance. And it is precisely at this point that our transformation is to take place in a more real, more solid. Notice that the connection between the decision and the impact, it is essential because it shows that you actually change your reality is not merely the momentary effort, but it's the mentality that we have cultivated over the long term. When we choose to look beyond the surface, you start to realize that our actions will have a force multiplier. Each of the following, hereinafter the trust in his own intuition, it is a seed sown in the fertile ground of our soul, which over time will pay off in the courage, hope, and the impact of it. It is as if each and every decision is an opportunity to rewrite our story of making a backdrop of adversity, a story of overcoming it. This provision only in cases where we have learned to listen to that quiet voice inside of us that gives us the courage to persist, to fight, to believe that we have been able to create a miracle. The impact of the following that inner voice is something that is beyond words, because it changes our lives, shapes our way of thinking, and strengthens us in our journey of growth. When you realize that, behind all that power, it's a conscious decision to trust in your own truth that is hidden, it is clear that the greatest revolution that is going on inside of each one of them. It is in this space that we find the courage to follow in addition to the fear, and to act in spite of uncertainty in the environment. In turn, obstacles into the steps. And it is precisely this idea of the persistence of this provision is to believe that there is a light waiting for us, which drives us to continue on, even when all seems lost. Because deep down, you know it's the true transformation is not the result of outside forces, but it is a change in the internal form of the faith and to hope that we grow every day. And in such a posture, that the decision to rely on your own inner strength, that is the one that prepares us to deal with any scenario, no matter how difficult it may be. Because when we choose to follow the truth that is hidden, we are opening the door to a journey of an impact that goes far beyond what we can imagine. And in doing so, we are getting ready for the new findings, new lessons, and new possibilities for change. They are always within reach. You just decide to look into and to trust in the power that lies there, waiting to be awakened. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. It is because of this connection that you find on our decisions and the impact they can generate. This is something that is often lost in the rush of everyday life. The truth is hidden, that we have inside of us. It has a great potential to transform into any setting, be it in a crisis, of pain, and of hope. When we choose to trust you in this part of the deeper we are, in practice, opening a new door to a new era, where our actions are no longer merely the reactions and make informed decisions for the impact, courage, and authenticity. This is a change of mindset, is what is the difference between the people who live in the stems of the one who really builds up a history of them. It's as if when you hear that the truth is hidden, for us to understand that we are in the main responsible for the course of the journey, and that is to trust in the power that dwells inside of us. We can create ways not visible to the eye, but they have a giant impact on our lives. This understanding leads us to reflect on the power of decision-making. It's not just about what you do at particular times, but the one that we have decided to believe in as being true. Because all too often our greatest strength lies not in the outward circumstances, but on the question that we have in-house. And in that question, often fueled by fears and insecurities, this is the most difficult obstacle to overcome. When we learn to trust in the truth that is hidden, is in fact choosing an attitude of faith, of hope, and of courage. We're taking on the leadership of our very own impact, are aware that every step is taken with the authenticity of the echo beyond what we can imagine. That attitude is what makes the simple decision-making the moment in a movement, continuous growth, a process which builds a mindset of a winner, someone who is confident that he can make a difference, even when the conditions seem unfavorable. Because deep down, it all begins with our willingness to listen to that quiet voice that urges us to remember our power, our strength, and the impact we can make when we decide whether to act in accordance with it. Realizing that our actions are the result of an internal decision, he gives us a responsibility to the larger about who we are and the impact of that. We want to make it in the world. It is as if each were a part of the puzzle that makes up our story of transformation. And this is a story only progresses as long as we are willing to trust our own inner strength, to accept the fact that our most important decisions, it often does not come to a logical reasoning, but a connection is sincere in what we believe to be the truth, more in depth. When we learn to listen to that voice, it all becomes clear. Why we act in alignment with what's really important for us to strengthen our way of thinking, and that of those who did not give up, for those who seek an impact, even in the face of adversity. This is a great eye-opener. What is the virtue of a decision of a genuine born of a connection to what is most real to you within each and every one? And that connection is what gives us the courage to follow, in addition to under the hood, turn the obstacles on the stairs, as well as the building of a journey, the impact of which, in turn, influence and inspire the people around us. And then, in a movement of self-awareness, we realize that true change doesn't come from external factors, but from a position internal to rely on our own strength, our own truth, to hide it. When we choose to believe in it, you start to see the impact of what we can create is endless, because it happens to be guided by a force that is not dependent on external conditions, but on an internal decision to move forward. This decision, which was created in the courage to listen to that quiet voice, it is what allows us to move forward, even when everything around us seems to come crashing down, because we know that our greatest strength lies in our willingness to follow what they believe to be the truth. And in doing so, we are making way for a transformation that goes far beyond the results of the moment, creating a strong foundation of self-confidence and lasting impact. Each step in this direction, it reinforces the idea that it's all that really matters to you in your journey of growth begins with the decision to rely on our strength, is closer to the truth, the one who is able to transform into any setting and create a new chapter in its history, made up of courage, authenticity, and impact. Because deep down, it all comes down to a connection with the truth that is hidden. What is it that really compels us to go beyond that, to make a difference and leave a positive mark on the world? If you've come this far, it's because of this story. It touched somewhere inside of you, and that is something that deserves to be appreciated. I think that over the course of the video, we were able to meditate on the power there is in our lives, the courage to trust in the truth hidden. In this connection, we created this message as something that is in addition to the content, because it reminds us that, too often, the greatest change comes from within. From a decision by the silent to keep going, even when things seem hard. And then, this reflection, it made sense to you, just leave a comment saying, "I'm with you till the end of love," so you can create an exchange for a true and strengthen the idea that we can make a difference not only in our own history. In addition to this, if you like what you've heard here, it's like a natural way of showing that this message resonated with you, to reinforce this connection that we created in the course of the entire conversation. And of course, I want to invite you to continue with me for the next videos. Is right here on the side, which complements this subject, and it may help you to go even deeper on this journey of self-confidence and impact. With just one click, and follow me there as well. I hope that this story is just the beginning of a reflection that will accompany you for a long time. It's because, deep down, it all begins with our willingness to trust our own strength, the more it is true. Even with the upcoming content, and more of the stories that inspired many people to follow, believing in our ability to transform into any of the above scenarios.